Referring to the first lesson on making nice points on freezer paper leaves, I'm going to use the same leaf pattern for a lesson on reverse applique. So I've used the same drawing that I made for the leaf pattern, but this time I've drawn a window in the center of the leaf pattern. I've prepared a piece of background muslin with a piece of fabric that will be covered by the leaf, but this is my base fabric that then I will put my fabric shape over. And this is the fabric I'm going to be using to make the leaf. These are pretty close in value, but they are different colors, and so you'll see the difference in the final product of reverse applique. This is a scrap of fabric that I have at my house. It happens to be approximately the right size. I have turned it over because freezer paper applique is normally done from the back side. So in a similar fashion to making the leaf applique, I iron this windowed leaf onto the back of my fabric, cutting in a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance. I cut around the leaf, and then for the center part, since it's a fairly regular shape, I can cut it simply by snipping in the middle, snipping all the way to one inner point, all the way to the second inner point, and with these concave curves, you're going to want to clip lightly to achieve a nice smooth fold when we starch the fabric over the freezer paper. I've sprayed the shape with some spray starch, and then, as in the first lesson about sharp leaf points, moving fairly quickly, because if you linger, not only will you scorch your fabric, but you'll scorch your fingers, and you don't want to do that. So moving fairly quickly, and with the point of the iron, turn under to the inside those clipped inner pieces before you turn your attention to the outside of the leaf, which you make in the same fashion as the very first lesson. And then working around in a counterclockwise fashion, and again working quickly to not scorch your fabric and to not scorch your fingers. Most quilters don't have long fingernails because they get in the, or appliqueurs, because they get in the way of the actual sewing process. So there is my windowed leaf for adding on top of this small shape is basted onto the muslin backing. It would be any size that would fit your requirements for your reverse applique, but you just put your other applique on top of that and pin it in place. The biggest difference between this leaf and what we did in the first lesson, apart from the fact that it is now a windowed leaf for reverse applique, is that when you're doing reverse applique, you leave the freezer paper in your shape. If you're doing regular freezer paper applique, it would already be out of the shape before you pinned it onto the background, but it is still in there now. And in this lesson, you will also get a lesson on these inner corners. This inner corner actually doesn't seem to have any loose threads or anything like that to give you the best lesson, but we'll work with that, and I'll make another comment when I get to the inner corner. If you had any loose threads, if you had to do some more tucking of your fabric, the best way to do it is to get right to the corner carefully with your needle, and then using a plain wooden toothpick, push in at the inner corner and the fibers that are make up the fabric cling to the non-smooth surface of the wooden toothpick and get pushed under very nicely so that you can then have a very, very clean inner corner on your freezer paper applique. The problem with leaving the pins in, of course, is that you have a tendency to catch the pin heads, but there is a nicely sewn inner corner. I've sewn the intersection of my reverse applique shape, and now I'm going to take the paper out of that shape. Frequently I reuse freezer paper applique, but not when I'm doing reverse applique because it rips the piece up when you use it. Then readjusting all of the edges, it is ready for blind stitching around the edge of the shape, just as we did in the first lesson on making nice sharp leaf points. All right, so there is a reverse applique leaf, a leaf with a window in the middle that has a different fabric inside of it. It can add extra color to your quilt. It can do other effects for your quilts, make two-layered flowers. In the Where the Wild Things Are quilt, there are reverse applique eyes on Max, and they make his eyes look much more realistic than the standard applique, layered applique would look on a face.